This EP was a bop. Good day everyone and welcome to Orf. It's Philip here and it's time for the album review. It's where we review an album. It's where we talk about an album. Yeah, and today we are looking at Gorillaz with their newest release, Cracker Island. The world's most famous virtual band are back with their 8th full-length studio album. It has now been over 20 years since their initial debut album, all the way back in 2001. And I still believe that this is some of Gorillaz' best work. They would go on to have a very successful decade thereafter with some immensely popular records like Demon Days and Plastic Beach. However, after the release of Plastic Beach, Gorillaz would go pretty quiet for an extended period of time. The main mastermind behind Gorillaz music, Damon Albarn, would release a pretty hit-and-miss solo album, Everyday Robots, in the meantime during 2014. But other than that, for about 7 years, Gorillaz fans didn't really get much. Until the big release of Humans in 2017. I was very excited leading up to that one. I was like, Gorillaz is back! Yes! And we got some really promising singles off this one. Saturn's Bars was pretty hype, Let Me Out was a tasty one, but as a whole album, I feel that it was losing a sense of direction that was more present on earlier Gorillaz records. Now, obviously there were a lot of features on Humans, and that was nothing new to Gorillaz. However, I felt this was the first time that Gorillaz was more relying on the featured artists to sort of carry the album through to the end. To me, this would mark a big turning point for the Gorillaz sound and is the main reason that I can no longer define Gorillaz' style. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's great that they can so easily shift between so many musical genres. However, I think that has come at a cost of losing their identity since 2017. I was not a big fan of the Now Now at all, nor have I been very interested in most of the songs that have come out in the past 5 years or so. I think the only Gorillaz song that I truly enjoyed between 2017 and 2022 was The Pink Phantom featuring Elton John and Black. That was until I heard the title track Cracker Island featuring Thundercat, which was pretty damn good. Was it enough to excite me for the next album as a whole? No. Mainly because I just assumed that it was probably going to be the best song off the album, bar none. Regardless, I actually took the liberty of not listening to most of the singles until the album dropped a few days ago, the only exception being Skinny Ape. So it's finally out. Does it meet my lackluster expectations? Well, honestly, not exactly. I will go right out and say that one of the underlying problems that I have had with the past few Gorillaz albums is still present here, that problem being that Gorillaz is still pretty indebted to its impressive guest stars. However, I do not think it is nearly as much of an issue on Cracker Island, and in fact, this is one of the more enjoyable Gorillaz albums that I have heard in some time. I don't think there's anything on here that is totally awful. I think the tracks range from okay to pretty damn good at times. Are the best songs the ones with the features? Yes, but it feels like we're getting more effort from the Gorillaz side of things. And the whole record has a more consistent and organized style of synth and groove-filled psychedelic pop. Is it just me, or does that seem to be in right now? The song I cared for the least is probably Tarantula due to its lack of variety. The Tired Influencer is a little better, but suffers from the same problems. The closing track, Possession, with Beck of all people, is pretty. I do love the trumpet, but I don't know if this vocal style fits that well with this song though. And holy crap, what happened at the ending of this song? What could have been a very simple, soft, and nice final chord to close off the album is just completely ruined because Damon Albarn decided to completely butcher the last word. Till the Honestly though, those are probably the most glaring issues on this whole record. Oil with Stevie Nicks is actually a pretty radical track. I love the tempo, I love Stevie's vocals obviously, and I love the chord progression. I feel the same about New Gold with Tame Impala and Booty Brown. If anything, I think Brown's delivery could have been a little more in tune with the vibe on this track, but I still do think all of these artists work pretty well together. Baby Queen is my favorite feature-less track on here. I think the production is superb, and I love the chords and melodies that are here. Skinny Ape is really good too. I think this one actually transitions between genres very well, and honestly, thinking about all of the ways that this song could have gone wrong, I'm glad that it didn't. It's especially fun in the second half. We already talked about the title track with Thundercat, and surprisingly that is not my favorite track on here, even though I do love me some Thundercat. But no, actually I have to give that title to Silent Running featuring Adileomotayo? Right? This song slaps. The effects mesh together in the most perfect way. It's one of the grooviest songs on here, which when mixed with the gorgeous chord progression, superb production, and entertaining lyrics creates a truly enjoyable experience. Maybe if I have to criticize something, it is a little bit repetitive, but I do think what is here is good enough to warrant that. And then I guess that just leaves Tormenta with Bad Bunny, which actually ended up being a pretty enjoyable mix of these two artists. There's not much going on here other than just a couple verses and some spacey background vocals, but it's fine. Look, I don't know if I can say that this album fully knocked my socks off, but it definitely didn't fall flat. Honestly, this feels like what happens when Damon Albarn just takes the extra time to think of some truly entertaining and sometimes unique song structures. It is on the shorter side at only about 37 minutes long, but I would much rather have an album be short and full of things that I like instead of overly long with a bunch of half-assed tracks that only got put on the record because they had extra star power from a talented featured artist. And while there are plenty of extremely popular artists on here, it feels like everyone that contributed to it was giving a lot of themselves to the record. I think what Gorillaz can learn is that if they put in the same amount of time, effort, and structure into future albums as they did here, then the future looks bright, because to reiterate, this is some of the best Gorillaz material that we have gotten in a pretty long time. Solid job by Damon Albarn and all the other artists that made this album possible, and obviously mad props to artist Jamie Hewlett. Hewlett. I'm very comfortable giving Cracker Island a B. And to put this to rest, while you were watching this video, you probably heard some rustling in the background. Let me show you what that is. Here he is. Here he is. Did you like the Gorillaz albums, Otis? Did you like the Gorillaz albums? Did you like the... Yes.